the first morning that we actually hunted, I told CJ, my PH, who I just met the day before, like, hey, I want to try to, get a wildebeest with this 44 Magnum. And I didn't understand at the time the look that he gave me, because he was like, he very much, we didn't know each other. And he was very much like, well, you're the client. And the client is right. So we'll go do your dumb idea.
Hi there, John McAdams here. Thanks a lot for joining me in episode 389 of the Big Game Hunting Podcast. Today, Caleb Giddings, the marketing general manager for Taurus Holdings, joins me on the show to talk about Taurus and Rossi Firearms. So we talk about the history of Taurus and Rossi in this episode. We also talk about the details of some of their different handguns and rifles they make specifically for hunters. And yes, Taurus does make a hunting rifle now. And we also talk about a few hunting stories involving people using guns from Taurus afield hunting in Africa, to include, yes, a story of someone hunting a Cape buffalo with a Taurus handgun. So before we get started, make sure you are on my email list. If you like the podcast, you will love the emails I send out every weekday about hunting, shooting, ballistics, stuff like that. Go to the link in the episode description or biggamehuntingpodcast.com/ebook. Sign up there. You'll get my free ebook on my favorite hunting cartridges. You'll also start to receive the emails I send out every weekday. Okay, let's get started talking about Taurus and Rossi. Caleb, it is wonderful having you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us to talk about Rossi and Taurus today. Let's dive right into things. Give us a brief overview of your recent hunt in South Africa, where you not only had a great safari, but you used some of your flagship products.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had the opportunity to go to South Africa and kind of get the Plains Game smorgasbord package, right? So it was an impala, a zebra, a blue wildebeest, and a warthog were kind of what I wanted in the package, and I ended up paying a little bit extra to get this really cool kudu as well, because I mean, who doesn't want to shoot a kudu, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it was really neat experience, and I had the idea that I wanted to use one of our revolvers, the 44 Magnum Raging Hunter, as well as our expedition bolt action rifle. So we have the bolt gun. We've got it in 308 6.5 Creedmoor. I took obviously the 308 down to Africa with me, and I shot with the 308. I shot the zebra, the impala, and the kudu. And I had definitely had a moment where I wished for a little bit more horsepower than a 308 when I shot that zebra, because we were about 200 yards off and I shot him. I made a good shot. When we eventually, 4 or 5 hours later, tracked him down, I had shot him a little bit low, but it had still gone through the heart. But he had decided he had enough blood left in his body to run for about 2 miles before we finally tracked him down and found him. And that was a whole fun experience, because we finally tracked the zebra, and my tracker was amazing. I mean, he was following like the teeniest, tiniest flecks of blood that, I'm like, how did you see that? And we finally catch up to the zebra, shot him once. He was still standing, so I shot him once more, and he just rolled right up right there. And and by the time we got there, the sun was almost down. The sun goes down. Our tracker goes back to get the truck. We're standing there in the dark. I have one round left in my rifle because, of course, me being the genius that I am, left my spare ammo on the truck. So, and it was one of those really dumb moments, because Expedition has it's got I completely lost my train of thought. It's got a magazine, just a normal AICS pattern magazine, so you can just do a quick mag change. And my spare mag with 5 more rounds was sitting on the truck. Did me absolutely no good. But eventually, we leave the zebra and start walking back to where we are pretty sure that we left the truck. And we end up catching the truck on its way back to us. We drag the zebra in. My PH, young man named CJ, was like, do you want us to like pull the truck in and like stage some really cool lit, photos and stuff like that? I'm like, you are a true professional. And no, I do not. I want to get the heck out of here and go back and have a beer. And he's like, this is why I like you. So we dipped out. So the zebra was a lot of fun, but the one that's really memorable to me for a number of circumstances, I mean, the whole trip was memorable, right? It's like, it was my first time going to Africa. I got the bit by the bug super hard. I'm going back next year, but and it's hard for me to pick what was my favorite moment, but if I had to really, really narrow it down, it would be the first morning that we actually hunted. I told CJ, my PH, who I just met the day before, like, hey, I want to try to, get a wildebeest with this 44 Magnum. And I didn't understand at the time the look that he gave me, because he was like, he very much, we didn't know each other. And he was very much like, well, you're the client. The client is right. So we'll go do your dumb idea. And we get out and we do some spotting and stalking. We finally find a nice old bull, and we get about 60 yards out from him, and he asks, if I can make the shot, and I say absolutely. I drop the gun in on the sticks, take the shot. The wildebeest goes maybe 10 yards and just folds up. It was without a doubt, and I say this not trying to sound like I think I'm cool, but that was probably the best shot I'll ever make in my life. Right? It was one of those where everything was perfect. It was cool. It was calm, and everything just went just so. And we get back to the lodge, and Harry, the owner of the ranch, goes, "Wow, that was a really nice shot." And I'm like, "Thank you. I thought so." He's like, "We lose more wildebeests to bad shots than any other animal out here. They're really tough." And I was like, and then everyone started telling me how tough the wildebeest is and how they get wounded a lot and run off. And I'm like, if I had had all of that information before, I never would have taken that shot, because it would have gotten in my head and it would have been like, hey, I don't want to, am I not close enough? Does this bullet have enough horsepower? All of these other things. But I was just like, I got a 44. It's, 500-pound animal, piece of cake. And it was an interesting moment where my honest to God, my ignorance of hunting and these animals and all of that played into my favor and allowed me to do something that I wouldn't have attempted, because I would have been worried about screwing it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they're not pulling your leg with the wildebeest either. They don't call them the poor man's buffalo for nothing. They're not dangerous like a buffalo is, but they are tough like a buffalo is.
Yeah, and I remember I shot it with so I was using here's how I picked my ammo for this hunt. Again, I'm not that guy who grew up in a hunting household, right? Like, my dad didn't hunt, my uncles didn't hunt. I didn't start hunting until I started working in the firearms industry. And so my experiences they're not the normal sort of hunting background. But I was like, all right, I need a bullet to go to Africa. I know Barnes bullets are tough. So I'm not even joking when I say I was in Bass Pro Shop, and they had the Federal expander, which is loaded with the Barnes solid copper bullet. And there's a picture of an elk on the box. And I'm like, yeah, elk's pretty big. Okay, that'll do. And that was it. That was the thought process behind that route, that bullet and load selection. And then I went and shot groups with it and stuff like that to make sure my gun liked it. But that was pretty much it. And it worked phenomenally well. So on the wildebeest, out of a 6.5-inch gun, it penetrated one shoulder, went through the lungs and the heart, and then it came to rest. It didn't exit, but it came to rest on the other side of the wildebeest, and it was like a pimple. You could almost just squeeze the bullet out. And I have it, if people are watching the video version of this, yeah, I have it on my desk, and it looks like a bullet catalog. Like, it looks like a picture from a catalog.
Yeah, definitely. It looks like real good expansion out of that, and it gave you the penetration that you needed, and
Mm-hmm.
you put it in the right spot too. So when you do all those things, you put them together. Sometimes it
Well,
really is that simple. Yeah.
right. Shoot him in the right spot, and the bullet does what it's advertised to do. Everything's going to be great.
Hmm.
The the that one worked really well. I also I shot a warthog with it, and it went through the warthog. The warthog sprinted and then just flopped over. The other fun one I shot with the 44 was we were driving out to go look for this kudu that I ended up getting, and CJ was like, Caleb, there's a jackal over there," and he points off, and they like stop the truck, and I just kind of grabbed the gun and just swivel around and take a pot shot at it and drilled it, flopped it over, which was a lot of fun. But yeah, so I shot those three animals with the 44. We had a strange encounter with I actually shot two wildebeest with it, because we had an encounter with a crippled wildebeest that it had lost its left rear leg in a snare. so it was had that leg amputated. So CJ asked me if I would put it down, and we ended up kind of having to chase it, which is where I discovered that a three-legged wildebeest is still faster than I am. But that was a lot of fun. Taking the revolver was a great. It was really great. It was fun. It was so much fun to be able to do a spot and stock, because I had spot and stock with the wildebeest, and then we had some stand hunting over a watering hole to get that warthog, because I was there in June, so the grass was pretty high, and you couldn't see a warthog running around in the grass. So we had to kind of lure one of those out. And then with the 308, I was running the Hornady 165 grain CX Super Performance, is I think what the bullet's called. And I got the one out of the Zebra, and that one it expanded. It's kind of mangled, but it did what it was supposed to do. And then I didn't recover the one from the Kudu, or the one from the Impala. The Impala, it just zipped right through. It had a clean exit. The Impala went maybe 25 yards and then just flopped over. But the Kudu was fun. So we were sitting in this watering hole waiting for this warthog, and I see this big old Kudu coming in. One of his horns is snapped off.
Oh,
So he's
wow.
got a full horn on one side, and then he's got a half a horn on the other side. And I remember I whispered to CJ, I'm like, where did that guy come from? And they're like, oh, he's been around this area. We've seen him for years. Last year he got kind of run out of his group, so he doesn't look like he's got any females with him. And of course, CJ, being a good PH, is like, if you want to shoot him, I think we could get you a discount because he's not a very good trophy. And I'm like, yes, but not right now, because we were waiting for this warthog. So I ended up getting the warthog, and then the last 2 days of the hunt were all spent looking for this kudu, and we chased this thing all over the preserve that we had access to for 2 days. I saw him twice. I took a shot at him and missed with the handgun, just a clean miss. And then so the last day, I grabbed the rifle. I had a Leupold scope on it, and I'm like, I need to. If I see him at 250 yards, I am taking the shot. Right, like I want to get this guy. And we are driving. We spot him. We try to get close, and for whatever reason, he was hanging around with a couple of wildebeest that would pick us up and spook, and then he would take off.
Hmm.
Um, so we got close to him a couple more times, never close enough to get a good shot on him. And finally, I say, all right, you know what? By this time, I had learned that the nickname for kudu is the gray ghost of Africa, and I'm like, fine. The gray ghost wins. You know what? He gets a vote in this thing. And I tell CJ, I'm like, let's just go find a nice Kull Gemsbach and shoot that, right? Like, let's get something fun that'll make a nice trophy. And he goes, cool. And I'm not kidding. We drive for 10 minutes, and he says, it's him. There's the kudu. And I'm like, I gave up. And this is the last day, mind you.
Hmm.
This is the last day of the hunt, and I had fully given up on catching this guy. And we hopped down from the truck, and I go maybe 5 yards into the bush, and he's a good 225 yards away. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. I put the rifle on the sticks, drilled him. He ran for a bit. The shot wasn't perfect, not the best shot I've ever taken, but we tracked him down. I put another one in him, and that was it. And it is the coolest. I mean, the pictures I have of it are just so cool. It's funny. His head is somewhere in between Atlanta and New York right now. I just got the email from the import guy that your trophies are finally in America.
There we go. Excellent. Well, so it sounds like a great hunt. And so
That
to
was
recap,
amazing.
you shot kudu, zebra, impala with your expedition rifle in 308,
Yep,
and then you shot wildebeest and warthog with a Taurus Raging Hunter 44 Magnum.
that's correct. Yeah.
All right, that is a really good hunt. And I know that's two of your flagship hunting
Mm-hmm.
firearms that Taurus produces. So let's tell us a little bit about just the company Taurus. Like you and I were
Sure.
talking about before we started recording. Back, especially like when my dad was a young man, Taurus had a terrible reputation, real low quality stuff, real cheap pistols. Not the case anymore, though. So tell us what is going on with Taurus these days and all of that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for people who don't know, I'm the general manager of marketing for Taurus Holdings Incorporated. The brands that we have under us are Taurus USA, Rossi USA, and Heritage Manufacturing. And Taurus is our biggest and without a doubt our flagship brand, and it thus gets the lion's share of the marketing efforts and all of that stuff. But kind of a very short history of Taurus is Taurus actually started importing firearms to the States in 1982. And over that time, the quality of the guns has varied. It's been good in some years, it's been poor in some years. And around 2013 to 2015, 16 ish, it was a tough time for Taurus. The guns that were coming, the majority of our products are made in Brazil, and back then, almost all of our products were made in Brazil. And the guns that were coming out of Brazil weren't very good. Around 2019, make sure, yeah, if I've got my years correctly, around 2019, the senior leadership at Brazil got cleaned out. They brought in new leadership. That new leadership led to major changes with the US side as well, where they cleaned out the senior leadership here in the States, moved the company from Miami to Bainbridge, Georgia. And the big reason for that move to Bainbridge was to allow us more abilities to perform the services in the United States that we need to perform to better service our customers. Because even though our parent company is in Brazil, the US arm, we generate 75% of that revenue that feeds
Hmm.
the parent company, right? So we moved to Bainbridge, which allowed us to expand our repair facilities, our quality control facilities, our in-house production, our customer service, everything like that. And then around that time, they also hired Brett Voorhees, our current CEO, as the boss, and he definitely brought in the mindset of we're not the same old Taurus anymore. Well, all that's going on in the States and all of this upheaval, big Taurus back in Brazil is also investing, I want to say it was about $10 million in new CNC machines, new production facilities themselves, new metal injection molding equipment, and most importantly, training. Like training people on how to make these guns, how to do this stuff in a way that produces a product that is up to the quality that you really want. Like if I'm spending, five, six, $700 on a revolver, I want it to be good, right? Like I
Hmm.
don't want to get it and pull the trigger and be like, well, this has to go back for repairs now. And so there was a tremendous culture of change that was initiated in Brazil and followed through on in the United States that took, it from kind of the battle days of Taurus to where we are now. And a funny story that my boss likes to tell is why they hired me is so I used to be a freelance journalist. I focused mostly on tactical shooting sports, that kind of stuff. And in 2013, I wrote a series of articles where I absolutely blasted Taurus. I bought one of our guns, and the idea for the article was the gun like a fire extinguisher, right? So like a cheap, affordable 38 special revolver that the average regular Earth person can buy, load, and practice with, and just keep in their sock drawer for the end of all time, right?
Hmm.
So I bought this gun, a Taurus Model 82, and it was garbage. The gun was out of time. It was shaving lead. The internals were rough. Like I really did savage it, and that was part of why they brought me in initially to consult, and then eventually as an employee was because I was the guy who like hated the brand, right?
Hmm.
And being able to have that as part of my story has been really beneficial. And then sort of as an aside, once I got hired, I went out and I bought another one of those exact same models of gun, and I've been using it in matches and classes and training. And as of right now, it's got 12,000 plus rounds on it, so I'm pretty sure it's okay. But we're still just breaking it in.
Yeah.
But no, it's been a really interesting experience, and the seeing a cult. One of the other big things that makes it a fun place to work and makes me like the products is we are making products for end users, right? The whole reason that we brought out the expedition is because Brett, our CEO, is a big time hunter. Like he gets out of bed and he thinks about going to Africa or going to Canada to shoot a moose or whatever, crazy adventure he's got lined up. And so he wanted to have a competitive product in this segment that he would also want to use. So that's where the Expedition was born. Like the whole stock design, where it has an integrated Spark Precision bipod attachment point. It's got an M-lock rail down on the bottom. All of that was him. That wasn't like, a guy in Brazil being like, let's do this. And this isn't shade at Brazil, but they don't have a hunting culture like we do. So they
Hmm.
wouldn't know to put these things on there, right? So all of that's driven, it's driven from the top down. Our rifles product manager, who oversees all of our long guns, whether they're Taurus, Heritage, or Rossi, just got back from Africa, and he took two expedition rifles. And so we have this culture that we're really building out, where we're making the products for the people that actually use them because we hired those people in the company.
That is very interesting. That is a cool story too, especially with how you got I was going to say fired, but not fired, hired. The
Right.
exact opposite of that by the company. That I am a take the bull by the horns kind of guy, and so that appeals to me, that way of doing things. Okay, all right, you're going to tell us all how bad our stuff is. Well, you can help us fix it then.
Yeah.
So
That was, I mean,
I'm go ahead.
No, that was
Uh,
the first project I consulted on. Eventually became our lineup of executive grade revolvers, which are handmade one gunsmith concept kind of things. And for that, they brought in a bunch of outside voices who had been critical of the brand, who were subject matter experts, and then me for some reason in like the revolver space, and we're like, hey, tell us what's wrong, tell us how we can fix it, and tell us what would you want. And so
mhm.
we all kind of were like, well, if we make this gun, this is what we would like. And then they did it, and it sold really well. So it was it's it's unusual in the space for a company to bring in their detractors and say, how can you help us get better, help us talk to this market that we don't know how to talk to. And that was a big thing for me, where I was like, yeah, I actually wouldn't mind taking this job. But yeah, and we have, and the hunting stuff has been, we've had the Raging Hunter revolver for ages. But we've never before the last couple of years really leaned into marketing to the hunting segment. And people
Mhm.
are frequently surprised when I say we have a bolt action rifle.
Mhm. So when I think about Taurus, I think about just handguns in general. A friend of
Hmm.
mine from the Army had a Taurus Judge. He bought it back
Hmm.
when many years ago when it was brand new, and that
It
was
is still one of our
yeah.
best selling guns to this day.
So I don't want to focus too much about it, but for those that don't know, just tell us real briefly what a Taurus Judge is and why it's such an unusual or such a successful and interesting handgun.
So the Judge it was the first 410 45 Colt revolver on the market. So you can chamber, depending on the model that you get, you can get one that'll only chamber 2.5 inch 410 shells, or you can get one that'll even chamber the 3 inch magnums. And it's popular. It's popular for two reasons. The first reason being novelty, and like sometimes I forget, because I do this for a living, that guns can just be for fun, right?
Hmm.
Like, and lots of people buy lots of guns just for fun, and some people bought the Judge just to say they had this thing that they could shoot 410 and 45 Colt out of, and it sold a lot of units for that. And then there is also, I've seen a lot of really beat up Judges that, especially down, you get a little bit further south of us, where they've got water moccasins and stuff like that. I know a lot of guys who will actually carry a Judge when they're hunting, when they're backpacking or something like that, because at the distance that you're likely to encounter a dangerous snake, a round of that 410 birdshot is the hammer of God for whatever creepy crawly thing is out there. And so they've been tremendously popular for that. And then also, I just think, it's a lot of fun. I used to be a big Judge detractor guy because I didn't see the point. And then I started shooting them, and I'm like, okay, I kind of get the point now, because I'm having a blast, right?
Uh-huh.
I was messing around at my range, and I set up a steel pepper popper that, when it fell down, it threw a clay up in the air. And so I had the gun loaded with a round of 45 and then a round of birdshot behind it. And I'd have to shoot the steel, and then try to hit the clay with the birdshot, which proved surprisingly difficult.
Oh wow, man, that is pretty cool. So that's one thing you guys make. You guys make some other more standard handguns for home
Mm.
defense and concealed carry and that sort of thing. But let's focus more on the Raging Hunter, because I know that it's one of your more iconic handguns. It has a very distinctive look. It's something you see in movies and in video games, and of course, a lot of people like to hunt with it too. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so we have the Raging Hunter is our flagship hunting project. You just had Larry on the other day, and he's killed so many things with his 454 Raging Hunter. He sent me a picture the other day. He shot like a 4-inch group at 100 yards with it, and I'm like, Larry, that's absurdly good shooting. Like
Yeah.
a 4-inch group at 100 yards with a handgun is insane. Um, but so we have the Raging Hunter. We've got it available in your standard, like your mainstream hunting calibers. We have a 7-shot 357 mag, 6-shot 44 mag, a 6-shot 454 Casull, and then we have the two, really big, wrist breakers. We've got the 460 Magnum and the 500 Magnum, and the 460 and the 500. You can also get your normal barrel lengths are 5 1/4, 6 1/2, 8 3/8, and then with the 460 and the 500, we make one with a 10-inch barrel that's got a great big muzzle brake on the end of it as well, because those cartridges are absurdly they're a bit obscene in terms of recoil, muzzle flash, but that brake, especially on the 460, really does help tame some of that muzzle blast and recoil from that round.
Now we're getting a little bit out of my wheelhouse. I don't know nearly as much about handguns as I do about rifles, but do I understand right? 460 Smith & Wesson is like a 454 Casull that's like a little bit longer, stretched out, so it's higher velocity round.
Yeah, it's like your 460 Magnum is, in terms of both muzzle velocity and chamber pressure, the most powerful mass produced handgun cartridge, right? It's actually
Mhm.
more powerful than the 500 mag. It uses the same bullet diameter as a 454 Casull. So out of a 460, you can run the 460 mag, you can run 454 Casull, and you can run 45 Colt, all if you want to. So that gamut of cartridges. The 460 is, if you look at it next to a 4570 it's very, very ballistically similar to 4570 and 450 Bushmaster in terms of what it does out of these guns. There are some factory loads out of the 10-inch Raging Hunter that will be pushing 2200 feet per second at the muzzle, which is insane velocity for a handgun. I actually think that your best sort of performance band for that round isn't the screaming super fast, but to actually dial it back to where you're going like 1600 to 1800 feet per second at the muzzle, depending on your projectile and a bunch of other things. Because when you drive those handgun bullets at those extreme velocities, a lot of times they kind of come apart when they hit stuff and they don't retain that weight. So, but yeah, it actually, because of the high pressures and all of this other stuff, it actually uses rifle primers. So it doesn't use traditional handgun primers or anything like that. I have been poking our Brazilian partners in the ear for a couple of years now about making a double rifle in 460 Magnum for some of these really crazy hot rod cartridges, hot rod loadings that are out there. I mean, if you could do when I say it is very ballistically similar to a 4570, it really, really is. I have a picture of it, a 450 Bushmaster and the 4570 all next to each other, and they're all within a little bit of length of each other and all of that stuff. So yeah, very cool, very powerful handgun round, and you can use it, with the uh, because you can use 454 Casull or 45 Colt or 460. I mean, you get a gun chambered in 460 Magnum, and you can take anything from teeny tiny white-tailed deer, East Coast whitetails, all the way up to Cape Buffalo.
This is very interesting. So I'm looking like on the Buffalo Boar website, and they advertise a load in 460, 300 grain jacketed flat nose at 2060 feet per second. When I
Mm-hmm.
went to Africa, my very first hunt, I took a 45-70 with a real spicy load of a 300 grain partition at 2,000 feet per second, and that
Mm-hmm.
was that was a pretty stout recoil out of a rifle. I can't imagine shooting that out of a handgun.
I will say the one thing, and I'm going to step away from my computer for a second just to grab this. The This is terrible podcasting right now. I should have grabbed this prior to. So for the people that are listening to that are watching this, I actually have the 460 here, with the 10-inch model, and you can see we have this giant muzzle brake compensator on the end of it. And having shot some really spicy 45-70s out of one of our Rossi lever guns, and some really hot stuff out of that, the one thing that is nice is that the recoil's not hitting me in the body, right?
Yeah.
When you're shooting these big bore, powerful handguns, you're kind of letting the gun go. You're not letting go of the gun, but you're just sort of letting the recoil happen to you,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not going to fight this back. I'm not, you know, coming in to take like a super fast follow up shot or anything like that. But the gun kind of does what it does. So there are trade offs to it. If you ever are shooting next to someone and they have one of those, don't stand next to that muzzle brake when it goes off, because it's abusive. But it really does work. That brake works really, really well. I've shot, sort of by way of comparison, uh shooting a Barnes 275 solid copper hollow point at about 1,800 feet per second out of that particular gun gives me about the same sort of felt recoil impulse as I get shooting a normal 44 Magnum out of my Raging Hunter, right? It's not, because I have the extra weight and the extra muzzle brake and all of that, it kind of balances things out, and I get that ballistic benefit of the longer barrel.
And so, tell us a little bit more about the specifics of some of these guns. That was a physically large revolver you just
It's
showed me. Yeah,
enormous. We
yeah.
joke that it's a crew served revolver.
Yeah, definitely. So this isn't. I know you make stuff with shorter barrels, maybe not necessarily as much for hunting as for defense from 2 or 4-legged predators. But what's typical barrel lengths for the 44, the 460, etc.?
Our most common barrel length for the 44, the one that is the best seller, is the one that I have, the one I took to Africa. So this is a 6.5-inch barrel. This is our best seller without a doubt in terms of barrel length. And I think for me, it gives the best balance of a gun that I can carry around. So if I put this in a chest holster, I can still move, climb, do all of the things that I would need to do if I'm tracking an animal or if I'm trying to get in and out of a stand or something like that, without the gun really feeling like it gets in the way. We also sell we sell the 8-inch, as what we sell an 8 3/8 inch as well, which is pretty popular, but that starts to get into that unwieldy territory.
Mm-hmm.
The 10-inch that we have for the 460 is not as popular a seller. That's very much like, uh, someone buys that gun because they want that gun. Like they're specifically like, I want a 460. I want 10 inches of barrel because I have a load that I know I need to get to velocity X, and that barrel's going to help me do it. Whereas we see a lot of the 44s and the 454s sold because people are like, well, I want a big bore handgun.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like, the joke that I like to tell is, people join the Air Force and the Navy because they want to be in the military and they're not really sure about like what they want to do in the military. People join the Marines because they want to be a Marine, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's like, and that's, you buy a 10-inch 460 because you want that specific thing. A lot of times you buy a 44 mag just because you're like, ooh, 44 sounds fun. Let's get one of those. I don't have a 44 Magnum yet.
Now, is it pretty standard for your Taurus Raging Hunters to have a ported barrel on them?
Yeah, all of the Raging Hunters come with a ported barrel. Even the very short ones. I did discover, when I was in Africa, that porting. So when I shot the wildebeest, one of the things I learned from that Africa hunt was, if I'm not taking a suppressor with me, to take over the earmuffs instead of plugs. So I
Mm-hmm.
brought plugs with me, and I didn't have the time to get them in because we were moving and
Oof.
grooving and doing all
Oof.
that stuff. So I just cracked that 44 with no hearing protection, and it was really unpleasantly loud. And the ports do make it louder, but they're very beneficial. They help keep that gun flat. They help with the recoil. They keep they make the guns more pleasant to shoot, in my opinion. I've shot a lot of 44s and an unfortunate amount of 44 Magnum, and I really don't want to do it without a gun that's ported these days.
Mhm. Now, it also seems like most of these guns are set up where it's easy to put a red dot or a more traditional handgun scope on them too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. All the Raging Hunters all have a top rail on them specifically for that. I have the gun that I took to Africa. I put an acro on. I think for a pistol that or for a revolver, I am a very firm believer in, if possible, if available, you should use a mount with an enclosed emitter. So your acros, the Steiner MPS, there's a couple other enclosed emitter optics, and the big reason is when you're looking at when you're looking at this gun, the cylinder gap, a whole lot of junk comes out of that gap when you press
Mm.
this trigger, right? So you get fouling, you get powder, you get all kinds of other stuff, and over time that can affect your optic. And that being said, I have an open emitter optic on my 460. It's just something where I know I need to also make sure I'm cleaning it, checking it, doing a little bit of extra preventative maintenance on it. But I also think the acro is probably. I also absolutely love the aim point acro. I could drop that gun off the back of a truck and it'd hold zero.
Hmm. Hmm. Now, I would imagine too that between that cylinder gap and the porting on it, if you shoot that handgun in low light, you're going to get a very impressive flash out of it too.
It depends. We've done a ton with powder and load development over the years where, I mean, yeah, you're still going to get a fireball out of the gun no matter what. But Federal is really good. I really like the Federal Barnes expander load because they use a lower flash powder. They run it at a slightly lower velocity than some of the other stuff. One of the problems in the big bore handgun world is there is a subset of end users who want the fastest, loudest, meanest thing that they can get their hands on. And a lot of times that's overkill for whatever it is you're hunting. So I like that Federal has been pretty thoughtful with some of their load development for these big bore guns. But yes, you will still it will still be quite the fireball when it comes out of the gun.
How are a lot of people carrying these guns? Are they using a chest holster, a hip holster?
For the stuff that is your 6 to 8 inch barrels, the most common rig you'll see is some sort of chest holster. If you've got an optic on it, I use the Galco Kodiak chest holster for mine because that'll accommodate the optic on it. If you're not running an optic, the Kenai the Gunfighters Inc. the Kenai chest holster is a very popular choice for a lot of these guns as well. But yeah, that's usually the way I'll see them carried most frequently is in some kind of chest rig or a chest bag or something like that. When we get to the shorter ones, like your 4 inch and 5 1/4 inch guns, you might see those more often on the waist, on the hip, or something like that. I the issue that I think a lot of people run into with that is if you're doing something like elk hunting where you're up and down hills and mountains and stuff like that, having that gun on your waistline becomes it wears you down after a while versus having it on a more supported system up on your chest.
Yeah, the chest would seem like a natural place to have it.
Mhm.
But how do people balance a chest holster versus, say, a bino holster that may also be on
So
the
that
chest?
was that. There's who makes it? There's a really cool the Gunfighters Inc. guys. So they have a way that you can take your chest holster. So say you've got like one of those bino like kind of chest harness things that a lot of
Hmm.
people have. There are companies that make attachments. So if your chest harness is running across kind of like your nipple line, they make an attachment that puts your revolver holster kind of above your belly button. So you would
Okay.
have bino holster and then down a little bit lower your handgun. I've seen that done a couple of different ways. I've seen others where it's like behind it and some other
Hmm.
stuff. And then if you're carrying the handgun as a primary, which is usually what I'm doing, I like with this 10-inch Raging Hunter, I just carry it in my hand, because that's the easiest way to move it around is to just hold it. Because when you think of this gun, something with a 10-inch barrel, this kind of weight, while it is technically a handgun, you really have to treat it more like a short barreled rifle in terms of
Hmm.
transportation, in terms of getting it in and out of places and stuff like that. I've actually one of the guns that we've used, I put um, a QD sling attachment on the rail for it, so I could just sling it easily. And then and then the very classy guy that I am, I wrapped some tape around the butt, and then attached the other end of the sling to that. So made myself a handy little pistol sling to carry my 6-pound revolver around.
That is funny how, the whole idea of a handgun is to have it be something that's easier to carry and lighter than a
Mm-hmm.
rifle and all that. And then there's the natural progression. Let's make it bigger and bigger and bigger. And then, you know, like you
Yeah,
said, it's technically still a handgun, but it's really big. And I
and
know,
I mean,
uh, go ahead.
and I think for me that kind of that sweet spot is that 44 Magnum with the 6-inch with the 6-inch barrel, because you can hunt anything in North that walks on four legs in North America with that. You can take African plains game with it. My friend Jason Klossner, who works for Lipsies, just did a all handgun safari. He just came back from a couple of weeks ago in Africa with 44s, 454s, and stuff like that. So, there's a ton of capability in that gun. Um, and again, if you want the extra horsepower of 460, that's out there too. I really only have that gun for I mean, I have it because I work there and I think it's cool. That's why I have it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what does a Raging Hunter retail for? I know it's going to vary depending on which one, but what general price range are we looking at for them?
Your ballpark, so your MSRP is going to be usually right around $1,000 for these. So your MSRP, sorry, I forgot we had to take a price increase. MSRP is going to be around $1,200. Your in the store price is going to be usually probably around about about
Mm-hmm.
$1,000 for that. I will tell you, Raging Hunters are one of those guns that you can often find like screaming good deals on them in pawn shops, because people will go and they will buy a 454 Casull or a 460, and they will shoot it. They'll shoot a cylinder full of ammo through it, and they'll go, "That wasn't any fun," and then they'll go sell it because they don't need that gun in their house anymore. So if you want to find like a lightly used one, check out your local cool guy pawn shop. They might have one.
Okay, that is an excellent idea. Funny enough, the pawn shop that I frequent a lot here, they have a good selection of ammo, whatnot. I use them for a lot of my FFL transfers. They often have a Taurus Judge in there. My kids just think it's amazing. The different. Oh, I want that really big one, Dad.
I mean, people like a big shiny gun. We've sold a lot of guns because people like a big shiny gun.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about your CEO recently killing a Cape Buffalo with a Taurus Raging Hunter.
Yeah, so he had one of the 460s that I've got, the 10-inch one, and he was in Mozambique with Crusader Safaris, and like the goal was this buffalo hunt, and they were tracking this thing, and they were kind of up on the side of a hill, and he and the PH were worried that the buffalo was above them, right? And they didn't want to shoot, but they were on this hill. They're kind of in this underbrush, and they think the buffalo's above them, so they circle out and kind of try to outflank him, and they come out of kind of this come out from behind these rocks, and he's 5 yards away, just like
Ooh.
kind of like hanging out, but he wasn't looking at them. He was looking away. So they actually had managed to circle around behind him. And Brett he had the first round in the gun was a barn solid copper hollow point, and then everything he had after that was the Buffalo Bore Dangerous Game loads, the solids. At the time, they didn't have their solid copper load, so I want to say it was like a 350 grain hard no
Hard
lead
cast.
flat point. Yeah, hard
Yeah.
cast. That's the word I was looking for. And so he shot this. So he got in position, took a good first shot, hit it in the shoulder, and then after that, he said he as fast as he could pull the hammer back and press the trigger, he shot it 4 more times. So he shot. I mean, basically the PH was like, "We are so close. After your first shot, just light that thing up because I don't
Mhm.
want him to turn. I don't want him to come anywhere near us." So he good, well placed first shot, and then the video is crazy because he just goes boom,
Mhm.
boom, boom, shoots it, goes 5 for 5 on it, gets all five, and it flops, it stands up, flops back down, and then rolls halfway down this hill. It
Wow.
was,
Jeez.
yeah. I mean, and hearing him and like hearing the story from me, you're getting, third hand. Hearing it from him and seeing the video, I mean, I was on the edge of my seat. I'm like, you did what?
Jeez.
Uh, yeah, he's making a funny habit of killing buffalo in sketchy circumstances because he just came back from Africa this year where he shot one with one of our Rossi 4570 lever guns. And again, it was like, it got a little hairy because this buffalo was in a whole group and they started like not stampeding, but they got very agitated after he shot the buffalo, and then they were kind of hanging out, and he was like, "I need you guys to leave so we can retrieve this thing." So yeah, it's I'm not going. I don't want to go hunting with him because I got. It sounds he gets a little too exciting for me.
Well, so that is pretty cool, pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm.
I can understand why people like that Raging Hunter handgun so much. While that is indeed one of your flagship products, it's not the only real hunting focused model you have. You actually make a rifle now. Tell us
Mm-hmm.
about that expedition rifle.
So Expedition is a really cool project. It was many, many years in the making. Again, and it was very much, designed by two very serious hunters, Brett, our CEO, and then Josh, our rifle guy. They love to hunt. It's their bread and butter. And we wanted to have a gun that, they would be happy to take with them. So the when you look at the just the features list, you're like, oh, that makes sense. Oh, that makes sense. Oh, that makes sense. So, your standard, so it's a Remington 700 style action. So you can drop in aftermarket triggers, that sort of stuff. I've got a hyperfire trigger I need to put in one of mine. The calibers, we launched it in 308 and 6.5 Creedmoor because those are you can get those at any Bass Pro Shop in the United States of America, and they're the 308, especially even if you're in Africa or something like that, widely available if you need it. And then the they wanted it to have external mags, so we went with the AICS pattern magazine because again, widely available. There's a lot of we don't need to reinvent the wheel if the wheel already works, right? Like I don't
Yeah.
need to make a proprietary magazine or a proprietary action or anything like that if all of these other good things are already out there for it. And then the stock design, we have, an integrated M-lock attachment point, integrated Spartan precision attachment point, if that's your jam. The barrel, like one of the things that I wish we talked about more, all of our rifle barrels, whether they're Taurus or Rossi, are cold hammer forged. So the guns are very, very accurate. I will say mine needed to be shot in a little bit. Mine it took 10 rounds, and then the groups went from, like a donut size down to really, really good groups. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Mhm.
I didn't know that was a thing. So, yeah, so we have that 30865. We originally wanted to launch with an 8.6 as well, but there's still some teething issues on those barrels, getting the twist rate and all that other silly stuff right. But it uses the Savage quick change barrel system. So if you want yours to
Oh,
rebarrel yours in, say again, why reinvent the wheel when we have one
yeah.
that already works? So if you want yours rebarreled in 8.6, our rifles guy Josh actually had one that he rebarreled to 8.6 and took that to Africa with him, and he shot a monster kudu with it. But yeah, it's one of those projects that what it really represents for us the desired end state of all the product improvements, all the process changes, all of the things that we have done through the last 5 years at Taurus, through the last 6 years, where we have said, hey, we're not the same old company, right? Like you
Mhm.
couldn't have paid me to buy a bolt action rifle from Taurus in 2015. That just there no, I would have said no, I will not take that dare. I'm not setting off a 308 next to my face. Um, and this gun now that we make, it's a really, I mean, we've had it all over the world. I've had mine in Africa. I shot an axis deer in Texas with it. Uh, the gun that I actually, what's funny is the 308 that I have, we sent out to like 5 different writers too. So it shot a bunch of deer. It's been banged around. It's been shot a ton, and it runs great. And it's just, I really love the expedition line because it's not going to break the bank. You know, you're looking at an MSRP on these guns of, as I pull it up on the website because I should know this off the top of my head. Bad marketing manager. Um, your MSRP is $1,000, right? Uh, if you go online right now, I actually bought one of our 6.5 Creedmoor guns because the price, like somebody was, it's a tough gun market right now. People are kind of blowing these out. Like I bought it on one of the online retailers because it was cheaper than my employee pricing. So I was like,
My
yes, I
goodness.
will go ahead and take that right now. Yeah, it's a tough time. It's not been the best summer for gun manufacturers, but go buy an expedition, guys. Make my summer better. Make my fall good. It's almost deer season.
Well, I'm looking on guns.com right now, and they have a Taurus Expedition and 6.5 Creedmoor for sale for $705.
Yeah,
So,
I think it was 650 when I bought it, so I'm glad the
wow.
price has gone up a little bit. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's they're very affordable. I don't believe in MOA guarantees because most MOA guarantees are based off shooting 3-shot groups and a little bit of fudgery. I have shot sub MOA groups with my 308 with the right bullet. It
Hmm.
may not shoot sub M, and like the reason I don't believe in it is not all shooters are created equal, not all bullets are created equal, and as well as anyone that what bullet and velocity my rifle likes, your rifle may hate.
Hmm.
So I discovered mine shoots really good groups with those Hornady 165 grain CX super performance bullets. So that's all I have. I'm like, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna go get something else because this works and it shoots good. So we're done. That's it. Problem solved.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of companies have an MOA guarantee on their rifles that when you actually look at the details of it, it's essentially meaningless. And
Mm-hmm.
so, that is what it is. But this looks like a cool rifle that you guys have. I really like the Spartan gunsmith adapter that it comes with. You have
Mm-hmm.
the M-lock attachment point on the bottom of the stock. 20-inch barrel 6.5 Creedmoor, 18-inch barrel 308. Those are both good short barrels for both where you're not getting killed on your velocity loss either.
Mm-hmm. And they're threaded. I want to mention everything like that threaded at the factory. We're big believers in suppressor in running these guns suppressed. We've actually found the 308 for whatever reason really, really. I think it's a combination of that slightly shorter barrel length. That gun really comes alive when you shoot it suppressed. I think
Hmm.
that's the best. Like you throw a good can on that thing, and that is the best version that you can get of that gun. It shoots fine unsuppressed, but every sample I've had, every tester I've done, I've just and this is subjective, but that gun feels a little bit better suppressed to me than it does unsuppressed.
Hmm. Okay, very interesting. So, anything else we need to talk about with Taurus before we move on to Rossi?
Oh gosh, I mean, I could talk about it all day, but I will say this, for people who are out there, if you are also interested in fun plinking, one thing that I will say, this is not technically a hunting product, but if you are interested in handgun hunting but you're not a handgun shooter, you're not a revolver shooter, but you want to get better at it, we make a revolver, the Taurus 992. It's a 22 long rifle. It's a medium frame, so it's the same size as some of our large format revolvers, and it comes with a 22 long rifle cylinder or a 22 Magnum cylinder, and you can plink all day with that 22 long rifle cylinder. Really master that trigger press, the intricacies of shooting a revolver, and I think that's a great way to, if you're interested in handgun hunting, to get up to speed without necessarily spending because I practice with my 44, and that's expensive. That's like $150 every time I press that trigger. So I
Hmm.
try to avoid doing that if I don't have to.
Okay, well, very cool. So tell us about some of your main hunting offerings from Rossi.
Yeah, so Rossi's a super cool brand. We have had the Rossi USA brand for almost as long as the Taurus brand. And on that Rossi brand, we are really focusing on making functional guns for the people, right? Like these are guns that are going to look nice, they're going to feel nice, but you're also not going to be mad about clamping them to the handlebars of your ATV while you go thrashing through the woods. Our hunting products on that line break into three very broad categories. We have our lever action rifles. That's going to be your R95 series, which is going to be available in your traditional straight wall rifle caliber, or not straight wall, but your traditional lever gun calibers, 30-30, 45-70, and then we do have a 360 buck hammer. And then also your pistol calibers, primarily 44 Magnum and 357 right now. And then we have our LWC, which for people who aren't familiar with the LWC, a lot of people remember the old NEF handy rifle or the H&R handy rifle as it was in its late years. It's just a very simple single shot rifle, available 357, 44 mag, 300 blackout, 350 legend, and 5.56, and we make that with a folding stock as well. So
Oh,
it
wow.
folds up into
Yeah.
a very compact, like backpackable package. If you're looking to really, really save weight, I have one of the 44 mags. It's a hoot to shoot. Um, it's a really neat little package. It's one of those things where it's the kind of rifle where you're like, all right, you know what? I want to get my son or daughter into hunting. I want something light. I want something that's not going to kill him on recoil, and it's a really great option for that. Length of pull's nice and short, really handy dandy little guns. I love the LWC, and I'm slightly partial to it because I named it. We had a whole email thread that was like, hey, what are we going to call this new single shot? It's lightweight, it's a neat little carbine, da 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 da. And I just replied back with one line. I'm like, what about lightweight carbine? And they went with that. So I was like, yes. Um, I know I love the LWC. I love the 45, the lever guns as well. We have the 30-30, the 45-70. My favorite SKU on the 45 on the lever guns is the stainless laminate. I have one in 45-70 stainless steel laminate, stock and fore end. Comes with a rail on the top, so again you can throw an optic on it very very easily. If you don't want to put an optic on it, it has really nice peep sights. If I was going to buy one and be like, I want something that is out of the bag, ready to go take hunting, all I have to do is put an optic on it and zero it. That would be my choice. Would be the LWC, or not the LWC, excuse me, the 45-70 stainless laminate. I actually have one in my closet that has been zeroed. I have all these guns that I want to shoot something with, and I don't have enough time to go shoot all of the things that I would like to shoot.
Yeah, that's a problem I run into sometimes. I'm sure there's people in the audience right now going like, "Oh, boo-hoo,
I
poor
know,
poor
right? Like,
guys."
oh, poor guys. Well, it's funny because I was not. So, my whole career, I have been a prolific competition shooter, and I still like to shoot matches and stuff like that. But after the last year of getting to do some really incredible hunts and stuff like that, I got bit by that bug really, really bad. I've had a couple of very unsuccessful boar hunts here in South Carolina where I got to sit and stare at the woods for 6 hours and nothing showed up. I'm like, that would nobody warned me about that. Is that hunting has all of the is just as frustrating as pulling guard duty sometimes because you're just sitting there watching, and I'm like, you were on my game camera yesterday, right when the sun went down, and today you just can't be bothered to show up. Yeah, um,
Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, you would know. But no, it's been, with the Rossi line, we have these really fun products. They're really cool. They're very useful, and it's kind of in that they hit that market of, again, like that stainless laminate 45-70 is a really pretty gun to look at. But also, if I'm going bear hunting in North Carolina this December. If I drop it out of the stand for some reason, I'm not going to be sad if it gets scratched, right? I'm not going
Hmm.
to be upset about damage. It's not like I'm taking, a pre 64 Winchester out or something like that. The idea behind the lever guns, especially on Rossi, was to deliver something that looks and feels like a classic Winchester, but you can drop and put on your ATV and do all this other stuff with.
Hmm. So this is all very interesting, and I did not fully appreciate the extent of the Rossi lineup until you and I started talking. So you make,
Oh, I
you,
forgot about the turkey guns.
go ahead, yeah, tell us about them.
Yeah, the extent of the lineup. So we also have we have two turkey shotguns because we have the Tuffy shotgun, and it's a 410 single shot break action shotgun. But we make a longer barrel version of it called the Tuffy Turkey, and we make that in 20 and in 410 as well. I have the 410 in my closet. I was supposed to go turkey hunting last year. I got deployed instead, so kind of killed that plan.
Well, it is amazing how like the advent of stuff like that TSS shot has really
Oh my gosh,
up
yeah.
up the game of a 410. I mean, 20 years ago you would have been insane for doing that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's funny. I have I bought some old habits die hard. So because my background in competition shooting and the tactical side, when I buy ammo, I tend to buy a lot of it, right? Like the idea of not having enough ammo for my gun like stresses me out. So I probably have more 44 Magnum ammo under my bed than people will shoot in a lifetime. Just in case, right? So
Yeah.
when I got the Tuffy and I was going to go on this turkey hunt, um, I was like, well, I need to get ammo for it, right? And I'm like, okay, well, I've got this optic on it, so I'm going to need to, make sure I'm going to need to pattern it with the optic. So that's 5 rounds. I'm going to want to make sure that everything functions. So give it another. So I ended up spending like 3 times as much on the ammo as the gun costs because that TSS stuff is expensive, but it really, from what I've been told, it's really good. I wouldn't know because I didn't get to shoot anything with it, but maybe spring. We got spring turkey season here in South Carolina.
Well, so where could people go to learn more about Taurus and Rossi?
Yeah, if you want to learn more about the products, taurususa.com and rossiusa.com are our main websites. Obviously, we're on social media at Rossi USA, Taurus USA on Instagram, and then Taurus USA and Rossi USA on uh, Facebook as well. And then I post a lot about our products. I do a lot of behind the scenes, a lot of very end user focused stuff. So, if you're one of the more higher level end users and you've got questions, you can follow me. My Instagram handle is a portmanteau of the words radical and Caleb. So it's Radicaleb. And then on Facebook, it's just search for Caleb Shooting, and that's me. And I am always happy. I do actually answer DMs as well. So if people have questions and they want to shoot me a DM, I'll be more than happy to answer it. Just don't, maybe not that same day. Like
Mhm.
I have a job too.
Well, so as we wrap up today, I got to ask you the question I'm asking everyone else that's been on the podcast this year.
I
You
have been
must
thinking
choose.
about this question for like weeks. You just had Richard Mann on, you had
Uh-huh.
Larry Weishan on. I did want to say something too. This was so from the Richard Mann episode. The concept of the third of a second of bullet flight is his maximum effective range. I've known Richard for almost 20 years. I've never heard that before. I'm like, this is genius. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
yoink that and take that. So, but yeah, I've been thinking about this question. Go ahead.
Well, good. So I hope you got a good answer for us. So for those that don't know what we're talking about, I'm going to ask him to choose one to hunt with for the rest of his life. Either a single cartridge and you can use any bullet, or a single bullet you can use with any cartridge. What is your selection?
So I went back and forth, and I kind of got down to uh, one of two. Like I had the bullet in mind, and I had the cartridge in mind. Um, and I went with the cartridge, and I went with 44 Magnum because, with the exception of African dangerous game, you can hunt anything that walks on this earth with a 44 Magnum, right?
Mm-hmm.
From grizzly bears to elk, anything in the lower 48 you can take with a 44 mag. And if I get to cheat a little bit and also take 44 special along for the ride with me, since I can shoot it out of my 44 mag, you can have a gun that is suitable for anything from personal protection all the way up to American grizzly bears to African plains game and all of that stuff. And I think that if there is a, you know, in many ways, it's the 30-06 of revolver cartridges, right? You can do
Mhm.
so much with it, that if I lose out on the African dangerous game, sure, that's sad, but everything else that you can do with it makes it worth that trade off. And also, I know people who have actually shot Cape Buffalo with 44 Magnum. They were using some unbelievably hot rodded 300 grain flat point. I'm like, that might be a little spicy for my tastes. I want to live. But yeah, no, it'd be 44 mag for sure. I think you can just do so much cool stuff with it. Rifles, revolvers. Ruger even makes a bolt gun that chambers it. So yeah, a lot of cool options out there.
Well, I think that is an excellent choice, and I think it is especially fitting for the guy that works for Taurus to say that it's a handgun round. So very good.
Absolutely.
I was kind of wondering if you were going to choose that, but I think that is excellent. Anything else that we need to talk about Taurus or Rossi before we wrap up today, Caleb?
Go buy a gun, guys. Please. And I will say this: if you guys are interested in any of these products on Taurus USA and Rossi USA, we actually have links on all of our product pages that will take you to online retailer partners. So Gunbroker, guns.com, all of those places, they appreciate your business and we do too. I just, I think the thing that I really want to say is thank you to all of the people who buy our products and let me do. My wife says I don't have a real job. I have a Peter Pan job because I don't have to grow up. I get to fly around and shoot guns and talk about it for a living. So she's right. It's great.
Well, excellent. Well, Caleb, it was wonderful talking to you today. I learned a lot about Taurus and Rossi. I really enjoyed it. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Thanks for having me, John.
You can learn more about Taurus and Rossi firearms via the links in the episode description. I'd also recommend checking out episode 321, where Ryan Hoover joins me on the show to talk about hunting with a handgun, and episode 389, where Larry Weisoon joins me on the show to talk about our favorite cartridges for hunting different species of game. Larry's choice of a 44 Magnum for hunting feral hogs, well, he was using specifically a Taurus Raging Hunter for some of the stories he relates in that portion of the episode. Links to those episodes are in the episode description as well. And finally, if you like the podcast, you will love getting my emails. I send out every weekday about hunting, shooting, ballistics, stuff like that. Visit biggamehuntingpodcast.com/ebook. Sign up there. You'll get my ebook I have written on some of my favorite hunting cartridges, and you'll also start to receive my emails after you do that. Remember, you can make your hunting dreams turn into a reality, and we can help. Thanks for listening. We'll see you back here next time on the Big Game Hunting Podcast.